All right, teammates. We are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the #1 show on innovative teamwork. Great to have you. Looking forward to having you back for more. To my regular listeners, here we go again. Another gem, another person that is just absolutely incredible in terms of mindset, in terms of psychology. There's so many things we're about to get into today, but we have to start with how she actually found the show. And I'll kind of reiterate the story because she just told me right before we started recording. But for those of you who do regularly tune into my work, you know, about 5 years ago now, I went to a Tony Robbins event named Unleash the Power Within. And he has this thing where he raises the level, the crowd. What he does with the crowd is he has them kind of redefine the way they stick their chest out, have confidence in themselves, and they get a posture and they get into a certain state. And he screams out, make it move, make it move, make it move. So I was stuck saying that for like 4 days, however long the conference was. And eventually I put out a book named Move Swiftly, came up with the Move Swiftly podcast, put out my second book named Make Your Move, bought the domain name to Make It Your Move. And Miss Christine Burns was looking through Spotify and she saw some familiarities. And now we're here on the podcast. So with all that, Christine, welcome to the show. Great to have you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And just with that intro, I'm like, oh, let's go. This is awesome. Yeah, ready to rock it, man.
Yeah, I did. So I normally don't like to make the intros too long, but based on what you were telling me before we started recording, I'm like, I got to get this whole thing out. I got to make sure people understand when you put stuff out there, when you actually go to events, you put your stuff out there, people are watching. So it doesn't matter if you get a lot of like, whatever it is, people are looking at you and you're going to get some sort of a gratification. You're going to be notified some kind of way. But you got to be consistent with putting your material out there. That's so very important. So, with all that, let's just get started because you have, like me, have a background in sports. You work, I think you're a sports psychology coach as well. And you are, I believe it is can't remember the number off the top of my head, but you are, I think, around the 10th, maybe the 11th cancer survivor that has been on the Move Swiftly podcast. So, you're fitting right in and your mindset is very much something that I'm hoping listeners are able to grab on and understand the importance of having a positive mindset. So with all that, why don't you kind of go in about your background a little bit? Or, you're actually in New Zealand, you played hockey and all that. So I'll give you the floor to kind of, talk a little bit about your background and we'll go from there.
Thank you for that. It's exciting. I guess my biggest thing is I played hockey for New Zealand. So I played indoor hockey. So for American people, it's field hockey and also indoor hockey. Now I played indoor hockey for about 13 years for New Zealand. And that was pretty amazing. And even from that, the only reason I started playing hockey was because I had a knee injury and I couldn't play football anymore. And the doc was like, no, you're going to have to give up. And I was like, nah, I'm not giving up. So the team was desperate for a goalie. And I went, yeah, anybody can do that. And that's kind of been my philosophy along the way, really. I've gone, oh, yeah, I'll give it a go. I'll do that. So my way through, I
and
studied
you were born
psychology.
with that mindset, huh?
Yeah, I was. And and I guess even coming from that, and I wrote it in my book as well, is that like my parents, my mum, 5 foot half an inch Scottish woman, my dad, 6'5" Scotsman, very, very different in that sense. But the whole philosophy was give it a go.
Right.
It's like short and tall of it.
Yes.
And that was it. It was like get up and go again, and it would be like there's no giving in, just do it. And that was my philosophy for everything. Background in psychology, positive psychology, exercise science. I used to lecture in exercise science in New Zealand, back home in Wellington. And then when I went through there, I also did a stint for a while as a educational designer, so designed online programs. And then I also worked for a little while with Wellington Free Ambulance and worked there for a while. So that was pretty cool too. And then just the whole way through, I've been working with people in sports psychology, performance psychology, worked with teams, worked with athletes, Royal New Zealand Ballet, that kind of thing as well. And then I just carried it on. My thing is about performance because it's like, we're all here, let's perform the best we can and just give it everything we've got. And it's, top 6 inches is the winner. That's definitely going to get us through. And I just bring it all together. For me, it's bringing all of that together, my sporting background,
Mhm.
my qualifications, my expertise, put it together and go for it. And that's kind of how I do it.
Right. Well, I'm glad you brought it down to the putting it together aspect, because I always look at, as a former athlete and several of the former athletes that I've had on the show, when it comes time to transition into life without your sport as a player, it is so difficult to figure out how to put that whole thing together. You got to look back into the things that you actually love. Like I say all the time, one of my favorite parts about playing football was just simply lacing up my cleats. It wasn't even, it was the warm-ups, lacing up the cleats, the time before the games, and re-emphasizing that. So I don't know if you mentioned, but you did compete in the Olympics as well, correct?
I didn't compete in any Commonwealth or Olympics. I wasn't selected directly for those. I was non-traveling reserve for New Zealand hockey,
Right.
but never actually got there. And it
But
was
you were
like,
like, right.
damn,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, all right. So
Yeah.
that kind of leads me to the first question that I have for you is as your experience, and you kind of just stepped on it a little bit, but as your experience as an athlete, how do you, what are some of the specific things that you actually went through that led you into wanting to be a sports psychologist in itself? Because again, this is not a profession. Listen, it is not an easy profession. Psychology in general is not easy, but when you throw the term sports psychology, it's almost like taking it, and it's a completely different world you're heading into. So what happened to you as an athlete that makes it so you even wanted to get in the field in the first place?
Ooh, you're good. I think it was
Yeah, like I said,
being a goalie.
I've been hosting podcasts for 4 years now, so I know what I'm. This is how I get down.
He's
This is
in
what I
there.
do.
This is good. I'm
And by
loving
the way, we
it.
don't have time limits, so take your time. If you got to answer, do anything.
Nah, that's cool. This is good. I'm loving it. I think I played in goal, so I was kind of like, I'd say little me standing in the circle on the hockey field, and I was like,
Now,
this
how
is
big
not
were the
fair.
goals? How
They're
big were
all
the
the
goals?
same. I could probably just out, probably
Right.
about that extra on each end.
So it was
Yeah.
similar to like an actual
Ah,
hockey goal. Like, well, okay, I got you.
yeah. It'd be
Mhm.
like the similar for that would be handball, probably very similar to that size
Yeah,
goal. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Um, but I was standing in my goal and I was like, this ain't fair. Like I'm the odd one out in the team here. They're all the same, those field players. They're not, but in my head at the time they were. And it's like, they're all the same. I'm like, how come I don't get extra help? This is just not on. And then I
Right.
kept thinking about it, and I would go to people that were experts, so other goalies that were at the top of their game, and I kept asking them for help because I was like, no one else really gets it. It's a different headspace. And
Hmm.
so I'd go to the top players, and especially the men. I'd go to the men and say, hey, look, can you help me out? And
Right.
because I thought, well, if you're going to do it, you might as well go to the top.
Right.
And so I did, and I asked them, and then they helped me out heaps. And I noticed a lot of it was in my head. And I
Hmm.
was like, this is where the game is won or lost. And for me, I was like, physically, sure, I'll do it until, I can't, and that's fine. But I was like,
Hmm.
it's in here, it's in my top 6 inches. And then
Yeah.
I started watching some of the younger goalies, and I was like, I'm going to help them out. And it
Right.
just kind of grew from there. It's like, where can I get that? More
Yeah.
information, more expertise to help. And then
Right.
I kept finding it. I kept going after it. Yeah.
Okay, listeners, I want to make sure we're peeling everything she said really close. I want to make sure it's hitting home. All right. She was at a disadvantage. There were certain things that she saw that were not, that at least in her mind, weren't fair, meaning, she's the goalie, her teammates are out there competing. And the next move was, I'm going to ask for help. All right. That's a really bold statement. That's a really big thing, especially in our athletic world where we're not fueled for that, where you ask for help and all of a sudden you get looked at like you're weak, you're soft, you don't need things. It's the asking for help that allowed her career to flourish and move forward to the next level. That's very important because again, as you translate these things into your business, into your career life, into whatever it is you're trying to do, you gotta go and ask for help. Seek out the professionals, seek out the people that can help you do what it is you're trying to do. So, with all that, you're playing, you get the help, and you are and this is another issue that again I had to live through myself. When did you know it was over? When did you know it was time to start thinking about stuff outside of hockey? And I'll tell you my story just to hopefully it kind of helps you
Yeah.
think of, and helps you when you answer. When it was my junior year. No, it was my fourth year in college, and I had transferred This was my second school I transferred to, and I was finally at the Division I program that I wanted to be at. And I felt like I just had it all as a player because I went through so much. I tore my ACL. I had to go work at a gym. I had to go through a lot just to get to this school, right? And it was just a random day of practice. The sun is beating down on you. It's 2-a-days. I'm looking around at younger guys. I'm looking around at guys that they're bringing in. And, I just had this look around like, this is it. This is my last year, Christine. Like I was like, this was it. And I'm always curious to know what that story is as a former athlete, because it drew me into the coaching world, drew me into the teaching world when I realized I had absolutely nothing left, nothing left to give the game as a player. So go ahead. The floor is yours.
I'm just like, how did you see what I was doing at the time? So random day, I was driving in. So I was in Wellington. I had shifted down to Wellington to play hockey because they were like, Burns, you've got to move down. You can't keep traveling all the time. So I'm like, okay. So I shifted down to Wellington and I traveled in and out. It took me about an hour each time to drive in and out to the turf. And I was driving in, same thing, random day, driving in, la. I got in there and I was like, I literally looked around the turf and there's beautiful hill up behind it. And I was like, I'm over this. This is my last game.
Yeah.
And then I was like, and then I kind of like realized what I just thought to myself and went, really? What that? And so, okay, we'll find out. So I played the game, hardly touched the ball. We won by heaps. And then I just came off and I took all my gear off, took all my padded stuff off, put it on my bag, zipped it up and and I looked back up at the same thing and went, that's it. And it was like, that was our last game of the season as well. And it was, we had a couple of drinks back upstairs and I said to the girls, look, I'm done, man. I'm done. I've played for New Zealand. I've played for my country. I've been overseas. I've done all those things. I've come back from injuries and
I'm out. I understand that feeling because it's a weight lifted. You just beat me too. I was going to say it's a weight lifted off your shoulder because again, I try to tell the athletes this all the time. All right. You're always one injury away. All right. I get how invincible you feel when you play, but it's a very small part of your life when you are playing. Just even Tom Brady of all people is only 40 years old. You're not, I'm just telling you now, you're not going to be as good as Tom Brady. I'll just put it out there now. LeBron James, I mean, he's only you're not going to be LeBron James. I'm just putting it out there now. Don't go be out there. That's a very small group of people. So when it's time to be done, you've got to be, and it really boils down to what are you playing for? Are you playing for helping the next generation? Are you playing so you can be a part of a team? Are you playing so you can actually improve the quality of life? And that's where I want to kind of talk to you about next is when you finished playing, did you get directly into sports psychology and then Walt came about? Like fill us in terms of the sports psychology aspect. And then now you're running an institution that stands for Women's Authentic Leadership Training. And it's like, whoa, kind of talk us through how all of that came about, because that is a pretty special, that's a pretty special feat.
Yeah, it was even during the whole time coming up to when I was finishing hockey I was lecturing in exercise science at the time as well.
Oh, you were lecturing while you were playing?
Yeah, I was. Okay. So I was lecturing. So I was doing exercise science and sports psychology at the same time. And so I was doing consultancy work. And so I was playing hockey, I was lecturing, I was taking teams and athletes, and I was also teaching at the gym. So I was teaching and instructing at Les Mills as well. So back home in Wellington. Yeah. And I was busy. It was full on. And then when I finished, and it was like, okay, cool. I get to, the thing that I loved most of it was to go, wow, I can choose what I want to do on my weekends. And then so I started, instructing more at the gym and got more into that. And it was the bit where I was like, I get to choose. I get to choose what I want to do 3 nights a week. I don't have to travel to go and practice. If I want to go and train, I'll train for me. And I found I got part of it. I missed the team, like you say, because I'm a real team person. I love team stuff. I did miss that, but then I transferred that and then started going, okay, I can help out with, training goalies. I can go to the coaching camps for New Zealand and I can train them and I can put it all back in there. Yeah. And I did it differently. I'm not your normal, I'm definitely out of the box, or I don't even believe in boxes, but that kind of thing was like, nah, just do it the way that works for you. And I found that's what I wanted to pass on to the goalies. I did that instructing at the gym, and I did it with the students that I was teaching. And I found that I was able to really focus in on the students that I was teaching and the athletes and the teams that I was working with. I was like, this is where I get to give back. And for me, it was that bit of like, hey, I get to give back here. This is where I get to transition into that phase. Don't get me wrong, I missed it. It was for me, it was the grind, the hard stuff, the hustle, the niggles, that kind of, I loved that out on the turf. I found that somewhere else though. I found the challenge in pushing myself physically, that type of thing. So then I just really fixated on the gym, the lecturing, working with students, and also carrying on with other athletes and teams. And then it was that thing of like, maybe I could get more into the consultancy side. So I picked up more of that, dropped some of the gym instruction. And then it really wasn't until shifted over here to Australia. So now I'm in Melbourne, Australia, been here actually coming up 13 years in about 2 weeks. So I've been here 13 years. It was just after getting over here, myself and my business partner, we were talking, and it was like, we do similar things. Maybe we could work together and create a business. And she was like, nah, that wouldn't work. It was that we do the same. We want the same thing at the end. We do it differently. Yeah. And so must admit, we had a couple of drinks, and then we came up with this amazing idea. And then
that's actually proven. With a couple of mentors. I'm not endorsing, getting blackout drunk at all. But
no, exactly, neither.
It is important that you actually do sometimes, because we're driven. Sometimes you got to take the edge off, and it's like, that's totally it. That's totally the idea.
Yeah,
so
right. Yeah. And we chatted with a mentor. We got a business mentor, and they were great. It was Professor Paul Wood. Him and his wife help out a lot of people in businesses, and he was like, hey, what about this? And so we just kind of kicked it up from there. And it was all the unknowns the whole time. It was like, okay, I'll give it a go. It's like still having mum and dad in my head from way back being a little tack, which I just give it a go. You never know. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's find it out. And here we are. And it's kind of cool.
So Walt Institute, walk people through exactly how you serve people, and what's sort of the day-to-day. What can they expect when they come into your world?
Yeah. The thing that we do, so it's Women Authentic Leadership Training. And what we look at is we do authentic leadership. So it's about, so everybody's a leader. It's not about, the title or anything like that. It's about each of us first. So we start with the person first. So authentic leadership is about self first, learn to lead yourself first, and then lead others, lead teams, whatever that is, groups for you.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
Is so good. And then our idea of it is we don't just work with women. We get a lot of guys in our webinars, a lot of guys in our face-to-face workshops. But our key kind of thing, the reason we've sort of done it with Women Authentic Leadership is both of us are women that are in the business. And then we tend to work more with women, but we don't, we don't kick anybody out kind of thing. We do a lot of one-on-one coaching, and we also do group programs as well, because people love the community. They love sort of bouncing off each other. And it's about looking at that whole thing of who you be inside, really finding that confidence, really going next level. We talk about resilience, but we talk about bouncing forward, not just bouncing back. So it's about what can you learn to take forward, and then also putting in place things like, personal branding, who you are, who you show up as, and also that whole thing of working with teams. And that's kind of my expertise in a way in our business, is creating teams and working with teams, because you might as well get high performing teams, not just mediocre Joe average teams. So it's that thing of looking at that. We put out a lot of blogs. I'd like to be able to jump on podcasts with people and interact with people and just share that knowledge as well. So
what are some of the common challenges you see when it comes to working with, like you said, you're not primarily working with women, but that's kind of how you started. When it comes to teaching women these elements of leadership, what are some of the challenges that you see, the common challenges that you see when they come into your world? Because again, I said all the time, women, you have to think about bearing children, and you get 9 months, the whole thing, the giver of life. It's so easy for them to kind of fall, a lot of women to fall back and just kind of be the passenger and not be the one to be bold and things like that. But I'm attracted to the opposite. I'm actually attracted to the people that are leaders. But I'll kind of let you answer that a little bit or talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, a lot of it's funny because a lot of women will come in and they say they're confident, they say they can handle these things, and yet when we get in behind it, it's the
Not
BS, the limiting beliefs that are there. That confidence isn't actually there as much as it tends to be, thought about or portrayed. And it's that kind of thing of like the self-doubt, it's like, and we all know this from research. It's that thing of like, a woman will go, oh, but I've only got like 70% of what the job requires. A guy will do the thing of like, oh, I've got 60%, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. And so it's what tends to hold the woman back is the confidence, those limiting beliefs, and a lot of the external stuff of what they think other people will think of them. And so for us, that's where we come in and we really jump into that whole thing of getting inside people's heads, looking at those limiting beliefs, stacking the goodies to be able to create more confidence and get themselves to really trust themselves to be able to step into it as who they truly be. And that's, we talk a lot about be, do, have, of whatever you want to have, you got to do some things, but not too many. Most people get caught in the do have. What we say is, well, you want to have that, jump over who do you be to have that. And that's where we bring in the confidence, the resilience, the ability to bounce forward, the trusting oneself, the, owning your own voice, all of that kind of stuff. And again, it's 80% psychology, 20% mechanics. So it doesn't matter what strategy you use, it still comes down to top 6 inches, really.
What are some of the things that you do as a way of measuring a person's confidence? Because we live in a social media fueled world, and there's a lot of women out there that'll post something on Instagram and they get 1,000 likes, and all of a sudden they're walking around like they're confident and things like that. But like you said, when you peel the layers back and you really ask them face to face who they are, they're not as confident as they might portray themselves to be online and stuff like that. So, what are your measurables? What are your ways of really seeing if a person's really confident or not?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's that thing of like quite good at reading people. And so I'll jump in and just start asking them about some of the tough conversations they've had, or, what have been some experiences that you've had where it's been challenging and you've got through it. And if there's that, if there's the real lightness in the voice, or the whole thing of looking up, and it's like, where's the deepness, the alignment in here? And it's like, okay, cool. And it's like, did you hear that? Did you notice the difference then? And for me, it's about getting them to notice and hear and feel the differences of me asking those kind of questions. Yeah, we do. I mean, we do use scales and, surveys and questionnaires when people come in. We do authentic leadership ones, we do resilience ones, we do confidence ones. However, for me, it's still about the outcome of that, and the results is in the story. And so it's that ability to really create that back and forth with that person, because we can go, the numbers say this, but until they feel it and experience it, it still doesn't mean anything. So for me, it's about them hearing the change in voice or noticing things, or going, hey, what would you like it to be like? And they're like, oh, I don't know if I could have that. Why not? What's preventing you? What's getting in the way? And then when they start to notice it and take it on board, that's when we've got it. That's now like, there it is. Aha moments are what we're after.
Those limiting beliefs. And I know I've heard you speak on several other shows about Mel Robbins and the 5-second rule, and implementing some of that into your work as well. And it kind of makes me want to ask you too as well. Did the connection with Tony Robbins happen with you, or like how did he get involved with Walt Institute?
And I mean, well, on the side, I'm a Tony Robbins results coach. So I do business and results training with Tony Robbins. I'm one of his coaches. So there you go.
Nice.
And that's pretty cool. I mean, I've been in the TR world for quite some time, which is kind of cool. And it's that kind of thing of, I mean, it's not a brand new style of coach. Yeah, there's a whole lot of techniques and new ways that we use in the Tony world, and that's kind of cool. And then there's stuff that we do in Walt. And then there's stuff that I do with athletes in the sports psychology realm. So it's not that I keep them all separate.
He does a lot of stuff with athletes, though. He does a lot of,
he does heaps. Yeah. And that's what I love.
That's what drew me to Tony Robb. He does a lot of stuff with athletes.
Yeah. And for me, it's the, like, I don't know, the boldness, the bigness, the kind of real direct way to do it. And for me, I mean, it's about performance. So it's like, it all overlaps, to be honest. So I get to be a Tony Robbins results and business coach and trainer. I get to be there with athletes and teams, and I still get some athletes through Tony as well. I mean, I've got a couple of professional athletes that I'm working with through Tony. I've also got some of my own that I'm working with, and at the moment I'm also working with the Paddle Ferns. So that's the New Zealand women's canoe polo team, and so they're off to World Champs in October. So I'm working with them as a team and individually, and then I have the Walt side. So I kind of, it's very similar styles of coaching between the three. And for me, I just be me with it, ask amazing questions, because everything we need, we've got within us. So it's for me is just putting them all together again.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because like I did mention in the intro, in 2016, you got a call out the blue that completely changed your life, your life. And your response to that. Now, I've lost my grandmother to cancer. There's not one person out there who has not been affected, and it's not one family out there that's not been affected by this horrible disease. But and I'll let you speak on it in a second, but your whole overall take on when you got the news to where now you shifted into that psychology to where you're just like, look, I gotta stay positive. So kind of walk us through when you got the call that, oh my God, I'm diagnosed with cancer, and this kind of walk us through the whole situation.
Yeah. I saw him like boom back there. I was sitting in a dining room, and I knew the surgeon was going to ring just for checkup, because she said, "Oh, look, I'll ring you in a week just to do a checkup." And I was like, "Sweet, cool." Phone rang. I was like, "Yep, that'll be her." So I answered the phone as usual, la la, and I was like, her voice sounds different. I was like, there's something different about this. And she goes, "Oh, just checking in, la." I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm a fast healer. So yep, happening good. And I had an emergency hysterectomy. And so it was pretty full on. And so it was healing well. And then she said, "Oh, by the way," I was like, "What?" She goes, "Oh, we got the pathology results back, and you've got endometrial cancer." And all I did was I stood there, I had the phone, and I was like, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but all I did was went, "Fuck, shit, fuck, shit." And I stood there, and that's all I did for about 30 seconds. We go, "Fuck, shit." And then I was like, right. And something in me just went bang. And I was like, right, okay. And then I said to her, "You do your thing medically, you get the best team, and you do your thing medically, and I'll do my thing mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And we're going to kick this, man. We're going to have the bestest team, and we're going to make it happen." And she went, "Okay, you're on." And it was like this. I just went, and it was like I got this strength. I don't know what it was, but man, it was just like this whole thing just happened. And then she said, "Right, we'll get things moving. Are you ready for it?" And I said, yeah, I am. I said, "Let's go. Let's just nail this and get on it." And then that afternoon I had a scan. They were like, "Yep, it's there, blah, blah, blah." And it was the whole way through for me was just the thing of like this total belief that I knew I would be okay. And even during treatment, I'd have my little mantra that I'd say to myself, and I would say it over and over and over and over again. And I just totally embodied it. And there was days or nights sometimes, I just cry and go, "Holy shit, I'm going to die. Like, this is not on. I didn't sign up for this." And then it'd be like, "Hang on a minute. Not on my watch. This is not happening. Not on my watch." And I was like, "Nah, I'm going to get through this no matter what." And I would catch myself, and then I would shift and go, right, who do I need to be? What do I need to do? Who do I show up as? And I just kept on going. And I would find the things that would serve me, or I'd find the beliefs that would empower me. I would keep moving forward. And don't get me wrong, there were times I would be just like, what the? My dad died of 3 different cancers. my mum had breast cancer before she didn't die from breast cancer, but she had already had it. And it was like, there's some pretty shite DNA happening here. And I don't need to hang on to it. And so it was just that thing for me is to go recognize it and then keep shifting into the things that would serve me, the things that would empower me to keep moving forward. And that was, it sounds easy, I know, but it wasn't. Right. And it was the decision that I made at the time was to go, right, I'm going to get the best team around me. You guys do your thing medically. I'll do my thing mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And we're going to make it happen and we're going to do it good. And I kept on going with that.
So the days in which you just mentioned were rough days. What can you say to anybody that's listening in that's having a rough day now or maybe going through something like that? What can you say to them that, and I know it's more of an action taking thing, but what would you be able to like to communicate to them that may be going through whatever it is they're going through in terms of how to just get through that day? Because one of the things I'd always tell people whenever they're going through something, whether it's divorce, whether it's just through loss, whatever it is, just simply take it day by day. Don't try to win the week. Don't try to win the month. Don't try to win the year. Just simply win the day. So, what do you like? How are you able to communicate that if somebody's listening that is going through something like that?
Yeah. And that's it. It's exactly. It's shorten it up. Like you can't look out there and go, oh, it'll be all right. No, you don't know about that. What can you control? What can you do? What do you have right here in front of you? And it's for me, it was things like one of the things I love coffee. And so I would, like in the mornings, and I might wake up and if I would be absolutely fatigued from treatment, I'd be absolutely knackered, and I couldn't keep a lot down. But one thing that I did do was I was still able to drink coffee. I'm like, yeah, man. And I would set myself up with it, and I'd have a coffee moment. And so what I mean by that is, like I'd get myself a coffee, make it in the machine, and I'd just engage all of my senses in it. And so what it did is instead of being in my head, getting caught in the BS, what I'd do is I'd be totally in that moment, and it would be like I'd hear the coffee grinder, I'd smell the coffee, I'd see the coffee, and I'd be like, wow. And then I'd take that sip and I'd hold on to it. I'd be like, oh,
that's amazing.
And when I could get it, if it was sunny, if it was nice, I'd be out in the sun and I'd get that sun on my face. And it was to be so freaking present in those kind of moments, because then I wasn't going back into the past, going, oh, what about this happened and that happened, or rushing off to the future, but this might happen and that might happen. I would stay in that moment. And sometimes it would be like, my mind would be like, hey, nah, let's come back to this moment. Or I'd be sitting, even looking at the tree, to go, wow, man, those leaves are amazing, and I'd look at the shape. And it was, I would bring myself into the present, just continually bring, and it was that, Tony Robbins talks about, it's that 2 millimeter shift. It's like what you do have, what you can do, what you have in front of you, and chink in the state, is just like that, lift that body posture, keep the chin up. And for me also, which can sound ridiculous, and I do it with a lot of my clients, is just put a smile on your doll. Like when I've got people, I've been smiling for no reason whatsoever, and I still feel happier. And I'm like, see, it works. And it's,
exactly.
It's not the superficial blah blah rainbows and unicorns. It's not that. It's just that thing of like, when you change that, if you can't move anything else, just get that smile on your doll and the chemicals fling off. But it's the lift it, be in that present moment, 2 millimeter shift, like you say, shorten it up. But even if it's not the entire day, it's like win that minute, win that hour, win that morning or the afternoon, what do I have? What can I control? What's right in front of me right here? And focus on that. And like, that's honestly, it's how I did it. It's seriously how I did it.
Yes. And it's also worth mentioning. I think it's also very, very important that you mentioned you had a great team of people around you. You made sure that your circle, and this is again for you listeners, that is so important. You got to put the positive people around you. I mean, Tony Robbins talks about the PAIR group. That's PEER, peer group, your peers, the people around you have got to be of the positive mindset. If you're going through something similar to this and you're having a rough time and you have negative people around you, you don't stand a fucking chance. I'm just gonna keep it all the way real with you. You need people that are going to uplift you, and I'm not talking about the coddling sense. I'm not talking about the sense of, oh, everything's gonna be. I'm talking about people that are really going to be positive and there for you throughout, and make sure they're just being real, not treating you like a cripple, not treating you like someone that's not human, but people that are actually going to be in your corner. And these are things you have got to constantly work on. So, you know, with all that, I do want to be, because we can talk for hours. We really can talk for hours. I do want to be very respectful of your time. Can you talk a little bit about what's next for Walt Institute, what you have coming down the pipeline, what people can expect when they look you up? Where do you see the organization going in the next couple of years?
Yeah, the thing we want to do is to really jump in, especially for Walt, is to jump into more retreats. Because we know that, you know, like when you're away from everything and you're totally invested in that moment in time, and it's immersion, you know, when you're in those immersive kind of programs. So we really want to get it more into retreats. And we've got a lot more of our group programs coming up as well. So that's for people that want to jump in on their own, and it's also for businesses. And the thing that we're also really stepping into now with businesses and corporates is to have like a bespoke program. So that's where we're really aiming at, is retreats and then the corporates. And with the corporates, it's like 2 workshops, one-on-one coaching, and then some follow-up with that. And we've had massive growth with the places that we've worked with recently. Their executive teams are just absolutely stepping up. Massive changes in their way of leadership for self and their teams and organizations. And then also for myself, it's for me, I mean, my whole thing is that I want to work more with, you know, athletes, and definitely more with professional teams, is to really step into that and jump on that whole professional side of things and get their performance going. And then obviously with Tony Robbins' side of things too, is really step into that and keep going with it. The learnings, the progress, and the environment of that, again, proximity is power. To be around that kind of level of people and learning is massive. So it all kind of comes together.
As a coach, though, do you go to the events with him, like the UPWs, and I think he has a date with Destiny or something like that? Are you the one going to the events, or how does it? What's your role with?
We can do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of one-on-one coaching. So for me, it's either one-on-one coaching, and it's just over the phone. So hanging over there. So just on the phone with people. Or the other way is we do business results training. And so that'll be going into an organization. We'll work with the organization and totally revamp the whole business side of things and take it next level. So increase revenue, increase their retention of their people, and just bring up that whole understanding of, you know, the whole Tony world of understanding things. And when everybody has that mindset, it takes the next level. So a lot of it's like here on Zoom or on the phone, and then we can attend the event anytime we like. We can do it either virtually or in person. And having been at in-person events or, you know, online events, definitely massive growth. And I have a coach. I wouldn't, you know, don't do rules, but my rule for that is I can't be a coach without a coach. And my coach is absolutely legendary. So I'm very privileged.
Okay. And what's the best way for people to get in contact you or follow your journey? You know, you can put all that stuff out there now as well.
Yep. For finding us on a website, so it's waltinstitute.com. And so that's WALT. And that is institute.com. So you can find us easy peasy on there on our website. Pretty much all our socials for Walt Institute, same deal, handle is at Walt Institute. And also my stuff as well for the sports psych is on Facebook, Instagram, those kinds of things. On Instagram, it's Outstanding Performance Mindset. And so also on YouTube, you can find both Walt Institute and also my stuff on there as well. So track us down anywhere.
Yeah.
And then
we'll include all that in the show notes as well. So all that, Christine. Cool. The final thing I do with all the shows to close out the shows is I want you to use your imagination a little bit. Pretend that you are the younger version of yourself. You are trying to stay your goalie. You have all your teammates playing, and then you get the call that you've been diagnosed with cancer. I want you to pretend that that younger person has come into the Zoom room. Give that young lady some words of encouragement, and we'll officially close.
It would be keep following your absolute strengths. Keep trusting yourself. Keep backing yourself. And really step into it. And if it ain't fun, don't do it.
Amen to that. And yeah, I'm sure you're helping out a lot of people now just by your story. So keep smiling, man. Keep doing your thing. I'm excited that we got connected. I'm looking forward to keeping up with your journey and everything like that. Everyone out there, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.